So Josh, why are we here?
Oh, that's a good question. Like about 2 years ago, we opened this guitar store in Israel, and the first thing you have to do when you get into the guitar store business is write an internationalization plugin for Rails.
Yeah.
There's no way you can succeed without doing that. And the reason for that is because when you're building a website and you have a model that's a guitar, and you want to get guitar.name in English and Hebrew, you want the return value of guitar.name to change depending on whether you're currently in the Hebrew locale or the English locale, depending on the user, the browser. And you just can't do that in regular Rails, so I had to write this plugin.
Alright, well how did Globalize influence internationalization for Rails?
Basically when we were working on internationalization for Rails, we looked at Globalize and how it implemented things, and we did exactly the opposite in most cases.
Can you give me some examples?
Yeah, sure. The first thing is Globalize translated strings, and internationalization Rails translates symbols.
Isn't that just a symbolic gesture?
You might think that, but you'd be wrong.
Oh.
And the reason is strings are made for humans, symbols are made for coders. And what that means is people are going to be seeing these strings. That means that people like content managers and marketing guys are going to want to change those strings all the time. And that's not something you want in your code. You don't want those guys messing with your code. You don't have to change something in your code just because they're changing the text. And so you want there to be a symbol in your code that doesn't change, just signifies what's supposed to be there. And then that allows the content manager to just go into the database using a web interface and change what the text will actually be without actually changing your code in your model and your controller. And that's actually something that's useful not just for internationalization, but it could be useful for websites with just one language, so that you can put stuff like, instead of putting strings all over your models and your controllers, you can just use symbols in there. You use symbol.t, or basically intn.translate, and then the symbol. And then that gets replaced with the actual string you want to be in there without having to go in and change your code.
Alright.
That might be important for people to use in the future.
Well, do you have any more examples?
Yeah, Globalize came pretty bloated. It came with about hundreds of different languages and countries and 3 different database tables, all loaded when you install it. I think the original Globalize was like several megabytes big, and that was just way too heavy and was giving people a lot of trouble. And it was pretty much, most people don't need Zulu on their website, so it was kind of wasteful. So IN18N in Rails comes with just English. It uses a few little YAML files, there's no database stuff. And of course, plugins will come around afterwards to add databases, other languages. There'll be a repository for translations in all kinds of other languages, but that's not included in the basic package because we didn't want to make it too heavy. And that's something for Globalize 2 that we're going to want to do in the future. Globalize 2 is the next version of Globalize. It's going to be compatible with i18N for Rails, and it's going to be a lot more streamlined. It's not going to come with all that bloat.
Mm-hmm. So, how did internationalization for Rails get started?
When we were doing Globalize, we noticed that we were monkey patching all kinds of Rails. And monkey patching is like one of the best geek things out there.
It's awesome.
It's better than I think even like duck typing and chunky bacon.
Yeah, it's where codecs hang out.
I think the correct term is code monkeys.
Oh, maybe it should change now that you have a monkey patch.
Yeah. Like I was saying, we were monkey patching Rails validation code, Rails helpers, all kinds of Rails stuff, and going in and changing the Rails code, and that was breaking every time a new Rails release came out. And we just thought that, we looked around and other plugins were doing the exact same thing, and it was bad. And we just thought we could make Rails support this kind of thing with very minimal changes in Rails itself, and everybody would be a lot happier, especially the monkeys.
Yeah.
And we got a bunch of guys together for different plugins. We got Jeremy Kemper from Rails 4 on board, and we actually succeeded in getting this minimal API into Rails itself. And the rest is basically putting it down here in the talk.
Alright, well, thanks a lot, Josh.
Thanks, Zach, and go for it, Sven.